Tonight, on The Good, the Bad, and the Unknown, Mel Brooks sits down, stinks at life, and makes a show that he didn't even know that he made. Roll the intro. Hello, boys and girls. It's your old friend RJ City, and I'm back with another episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Unknown, where I take one artist and I find a work of theirs that I like, one that I don't, and one that not many people know about. And today, we are talking about someone who we have mentioned many times on this show before through people like Madeline Kahn, Dom DeLuise, and B. Arthur. We are, of course, talking about the renowned and iconic and effervescent actor, creator, writer, director, Mel Brooks. He was born Melvin Kaminsky in 1926 in Brooklyn, New York, and that makes him 94 years old. And after working his way up the Catskills and Borscht Belt, he was first hired to write for Sid Caesar in a legendary writer's room that included Neil Simon, Woody Allen, Mel Tolkien, and of course, the late Carl Reiner, with whom he did the classic act, The 2,000-Year-Old Man. And of course, with the also late Buck Henry, he created the influential spy parody TV show, Get Smart. The first movie he made was The Producers, and we all know about that, but he used the profits from that movie to make this movie, which is my pick for the good. It is 1970's The 12 Chairs. The film stars Frank Langella, Ron Moody, and Dom fucking DeLuise. Mel Brooks also has a small part, even though they advertised him on the poster like he starred in it. The movie takes place in post-revolution Russia, and it's about a wild goose chase to recover priceless jewels that were hidden in one of 12 dining room chairs. Sure, it sounds like a socialist version of It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, but there was a lot more here. This is probably Mel Brooks' most normal movie. It's not a genre parody, there's no fourth wall breaking, but for something that is normal, it's still very good. The comedy is good, the acting is good, and of course, taking place in post-revolution Russia, you know there's still a lot of biting social commentary there. This movie is so good, in fact, that it's actually one of Mel Brooks' most critically acclaimed films, and it currently has a 93% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. However, it was not the biggest box office success, and it's easy to see why. It's not very flashy, there's no songs, there's no all-star lineup, but nevertheless, it is probably one of the most underappreciated of his works. So The Good was The 12 Chairs, a non-traditional Mel Brooks film. And The Bad is also a non-traditional Mel Brooks film, but for all the wrong reasons. It is 1991's Life Stinks. I was gonna say, and so does this movie, but when it's so easy to make fun of a movie's title, you know we're in trouble already. Mel co-wrote, produced, directed, and stars in this movie alongside Jeffrey Tambor, Leslie Ann Warren, and Sid Caesar alumnus Howard Morris. Mel plays the mean CEO of Bolt Enterprises who wants to build over this poor area in LA. But Jeffrey Tambor also wants to buy the land too, so he makes a deal with Mel Brooks that if Mel Brooks can live in this poor area as if he were homeless for 30 days, then he can have all the land. It's a little trading places, it's a little Scrooged, but like, it's 1991, and this is such a tired and predictable premise, especially when Mel Brooks does nothing original with it. It's just like, oh wow, the rich guy is learning to have sympathy for poor people, and he's realizing that living simply is the key to happiness. Okay. Mel falls in love with Leslie Ann Warren, who plays a homeless woman, and originally, this part was supposed to go to Whoopi Goldberg. But then they thought there was too much of an age gap because Mel is literally 30 years older than Whoopi Goldberg. There's also just way too much Mel Brooks in this movie. Most of the time in his own films, Mel Brooks is smart enough to give himself smaller roles, and for good reason, because, well, it totally backfires here. Needless to say, it was a critical and commercial bomb, although it's notable for being a different style of filmmaking for him. But if you want 90 minutes of Mel Brooks with dirt on his suit, this is the movie for you. So The Good was The 12 Chairs, The Bad was Life Stinks, and The Unknown is so unknown that even Mel Brooks didn't even know it was being made. It is the 1975 TV series sequel to Blazing Saddles called Black BART. And if you've never heard of it, there's a really good reason why. Mel Brooks has always been fairly adamant about never doing any sequels to his films. He even made History of the World Part 1 with the full knowledge that there would never be a History of the World Part 2. However, with anything that makes a lot of money, the studio always wants to make a sequel. Mel was afraid that the studio, Warner Brothers, would try to make a Blazing Saddles sequel even if he wasn't involved. To prevent this, Mel Brooks put a clause in his contract stating that Warner Brothers could not have the rights to make a Blazing Saddles sequel unless they made a TV adaptation within 6 months of Blazing Saddles' release. He did that knowing it was pretty much impossible for them to pull it off. So Blazing Saddles comes out in 1974, it's a huge hit, makes lots of money, but years go by and nothing happens. Then years later, the studio comes to Mel and they say, we'd like to not only make one sequel to Blazing Saddles, but we want to make a bunch of them. And Mel Brooks says, oh yeah, well if you recall, there was a clause in your contract stating that you can't do that unless you made a TV version within 6 months of their release. And the studio said, oh yeah? Watch this. Brooks' big mistake was that the clause didn't say they had to make and air a Blazing Saddles TV show, just that they had to make one. Because it turns out that for the past 4 years, Warner Brothers was secretly making a Blazing Saddles TV series without ever telling Mel Brooks. The show was called Black BART, and it was based on the original Blazing Saddles story by Andrew Bergman. And sure, it has the same characters, just slightly different actors. Instead of Cleavon Little, you get Lou Gossett Jr. Instead of Gene Wilder, you get Steven Landesberg. And instead of Madeline Kahn, you get Millie Slavin. But a Mel Brooks premise without Mel Brooks is exactly what you would expect. Fucking horrible. However, the pilot was included as an extra on the 30th anniversary Blazing Saddles DVD set. Needless to say, while the studio's workaround was very clever, their results were not, and no other Blazing Saddles sequels or spin-offs ever moved forward. What a colossal waste of time and resources. So the good was 12 Chairs, the bad was Life Stinks, and the unknown, which you now know, even though it's really not Mel Brooks' fault because even he didn't know about it, was Black BART. I am RJ City, and this is what I've chosen to do with my life.
Guests of the RJ City Show, subscribe to his channel, follow him on social media, and buy his t-shirts at prowrestlingtees.com/RJ City.